was stunned. I mean, you can talk to Shelly about it. I was on the phone with her, and I'm pulling down the shade right out the window, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. She's like, what? I'm like, Shelly, you ain't gonna believe this. She's like, what? I'm like, there's a freaking UFO out there.
It was incredible. It's incredible that he actually saw that while we were speaking. Because I was like, how could that be? You know, the more I talk about it, the more serendipitous it seems. It's like, how does that happen? I don't hear many stories like that, I guess.
She's like, you gotta be kidding. I said, no, I'm not kidding. I'm gonna take a video of it. And then I did, and then I took pictures of it. And then I watched them back, and I said, they're not turning out. I said, I'll call you back. I'm gonna call my buddy up. So I called up Jeff. I said, hey man, get your camera, go back and try and get a video over the lake. You'll see these lights up there. You can't miss them. They're the brightest thing up there. And he went out there, and he's like, no, I can't see nothing. I said, go upstairs, because he's got a 2-story house also. I said, go upstairs and look out your bedroom window and see if you can see it. He got up there, and then that's the videos he got.
He was telling me of his experiences, and then I remember he had looked outside, and he said, oh my gosh, Shelly, I can't even believe this. There is something in the sky, and I don't know what it is. So something like that. And I said, what do you mean? And he says, well, you know those bugles? Remember bugles? It's kind of the shape of a bugle. I'm like, well, what are you looking at? So, you know, we kept talking about the lights, and he's like, well, now it looks like a Christmas tree. He goes, oh, you know, different lights are flashing on. He goes, but this one's moving, and this one, he goes, no, it's like a Christmas tree.
What I seen, and I was trying to describe it to Shelly, and I said, like a Christmas tree, but also like those bugles, like a cone like that, like a bugle. You know what a bugle is? Them crackers?
The corn,
they're like a chip. Yeah, they're like yeah. That's kind of the pyramidical shape that it was in. And there was a distinct light at the top and 2 at each on the bottom. But then there would be all kinds of lights in the middle of it, and they would come and go, and they would blink on and off, and they were like every color. It was red, orange, green, blue, yellow, and they just blink, 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 on and off and on and off and on and off, and then there'd be like blue lines that came down from the top light, and they would sporadically, it looked like almost like LED lights that would come down from the top one to the bottom two. Not across the bottom, but just from the top down to the bottom two, one to the left, one to the right. And they'd flash on and off. And then they would stop, and then you would see like one's come out of it and one's go into it, and one's come out of it and one's go into it. And then they kind of, you know, blink at different times. It was bizarre. I've never seen nothing like it before.
He goes, I can't believe this. The first time I talked to you about this, and now I'm looking out my window. He goes, just a minute. And he's like, he got upstairs and he was able to get a better look at it. He's like, I'll try to get it with my phone. He goes, oh, it's not showing up very well.
It was so weird because I finally found someone that was into this UFO thing like I am, at least at that level. I come to find out she's far beyond it, and she knows a vast amount more knowledge than I do. I'm just a novice, but here we're talking, the first night we're talking, and I'm going to bed, and I'm talking to her on the phone, and I'm up here pulling the shade down, and all of a sudden I look out the window, and there one is. It was just like, you got to be kidding me. And those were the words I said to her. I said, you have got to be kidding me. She's like, what? I'm like, Shelly, I'm looking at a UFO right now. There was no clouds in the sky. There were no clouds that night, okay? I looked the next night, the night after, the whole week after, there was nothing there. So it was not a star. It was not a planet. It was not a satellite. I'm a Marine Corps vet. I've seen just about every bird that we have, including the SR-71 Blackbird. I know my planes. It was not a plane. It was not a helicopter. And that thing was there for hours, because I get up at 3 in the morning to go to work. My buddy, he stayed up until 11:30 that night. He said when he went to bed, it was still there. It was still there at 11:30. So I called up Jeff. I said, hey, man, get your camera. So I called up Jeff. I said, hey, man, get your camera. So I called up Jeff. I said, hey, man, get your camera. All right. I made it. Size a locust. All right. I made it. Size a locust. All right. I made it. Size a locust. I made it. Size a locust. I made it. Size a locust. I made it. Size. I made it. Size. I made it. Size. I made it. Size. They're like a chip. Yeah, they're like a. Yeah. That's kind of the pyramidical shape that it was in. They're like a chip. Yeah, they're like a. Yeah. That's kind of the pyramidical shape that it was in. They're like a chip. Yeah, they're like a. Yeah. I never would have been look at the roof of the neck. I never would have been look at the roof of the neck. I never like special. I like
synchronicity, thank you. That first time he had told somebody and was really excited about this subject, they showed up. And he said, well, I'm going to see if I can contact my friend Jeff and see if he can see it. And the next day he said that he had taken video and he got better pictures. When I saw them, I'm like, wait a minute, this is really something. I've never seen anything like this. And I know there was a lighthouse, and like, was it in the lighthouse? He goes, no, this is way above. This is way in the sky. It's not a lighthouse. There's nothing up there. And they said, and Jeff said it lasted for a couple hours. So this was past 11:30, I think, in the evening. So when I had saw those videos, I sent it to you directly because I was like, wow, you have to see this, John, because this is what you do.
Where I live in Manitowoc and where Jeff lives in Manitowoc, Wisconsin, he's probably, I'm going to say roughly a mile and a half, maybe 2 miles to the northeast of me. So he's a little bit closer to Lake Michigan than I am. And I would say I'm approximately, well, I'm on 26th and Walmer Street, so I'm 26 blocks up from the lake. So basically probably 2 miles, 2.5 miles from Lake Michigan. But where this photo, looking out my window that I just sent you at daylight now, is the exact photo that I tried taking that video of it through, which, like I say, to me, it didn't look like it turned out. But where that's facing is due east, and what's due east is Lake Michigan. So there were no city lights, there was nothing. And this was because when you see this daytime video that I sent you, you'll see that there's a 2-story house next to me. This was well above that. There are no other buildings in the background that are higher than that house. That house and those trees block anything and everything else going east. So this is just confirmation that this thing was at least several hundred feet up in the air, probably several thousand feet up, who knows? But it looked like it was like in Two Rivers, which is the next neighboring city to the north and northeast. And That's just the perception that I could get from here. Yeah, but for all I know, it could have been hundreds of miles away. It could have been something massive. But it was big because you know what I mean? You could tell that it wasn't close. It wasn't close. So it was at least, I would say, 10 miles away. Jeff and I talked about that, and he thought they were all different ones from his vantage point. And I think that it was mainly one big one, where that triangle was, where that cone, whatever you want to call it, was. And I think there was multiple little ones coming and going. They were definitely going right up to it and right around it. You know, from the angle and from the distance that I was at, you couldn't tell whether they're coming out of it or going into it, but they're definitely flying right up to it or flying right away from it. And like I say, when you look at that daylight picture, you'll see my vantage point. It was above the house and above the trees and to the right of the big tall pine tree that you will see. So basically, if you look at that picture that I just sent you, looking out my bedroom window, you'll see that house next to me and a chimney straight up the house going almost up the middle of that tree. Well, this was above that. So you can just use that for a guide and imagine 10 miles back to put that thing up. That had to be several thousand feet up in the air.
That's gotta be. What angle from the horizon would you say that is?
Well, it was pretty much due east.
But is it like 10 or 15 degrees over the horizon?
Oh yeah, all of that. Yeah. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it was probably more.
So give me a number. What would your estimate be?
I would say 30, 35.
Okay, 30 to 35. Because that question is interesting.
Just looking at the angle of that house. Yeah, just looking at the angle of that house and that chimney, and from me being on the second story here, that vantage point. Yeah, that's got to. I would say 30, 35 degrees, somewhere in there. Yeah.
I've talked to a lot of people who had seen other, UFOs over that lake. Not local, but throughout the United States.
Visitors to the area.
Visitors, or people from Chicago that have lived in Chicago and seen it over Lake Michigan also.
And what they described, was it typically lights in the sky or something else?
Yeah, lights in the sky. It's pretty much.
So we could say, based on the folklore and the local legends, that what Jeff and Myles spotted is in keeping with the tradition of sightings in the area. Yes,
this was just, there were so many. I couldn't believe how many were. And if I would have known that at the time, what he was looking at, I would have driven down there, or up there, I should say, and looked at him myself. I mean, after I saw Jeff's video, I was like, oh, well, if I would have known that, I would have gone down.
Right up the road from Two Rivers, which is where these things were over, okay, by the looks of it. From my best perception, if I was to say where they were, it looked like they were going to be like somewhere right over towards Two Rivers, probably 7 to 10 miles away is what it was looking like to me. And what's right up the road from Two Rivers is Point Beach, and what's right up the road from Point Beach is Kewaunee. Now, what the significance of those two places are, they both have nuclear plants. There have been, over the years, there would be talk of lights and stuff out over the nuclear plants in this, in the area, nothing ever really on the news or anything, but just people talking amongst themselves, yeah, I saw some weird lights the other night out by the nuclear plant, because it's a good fishing area, because they shoot out the water that they use for cooling the reactors, they shoot it out into the lake, and that's really warm water, and the trout and the salmon, they like to swim up there when it's spawning time, which is this time of the year, and then in the fall again, and so they like that clean, warm water. I will guarantee you, God is my witness, this was not anything we have. No way. Not even close. Not a chance. And it was not a star. It was not a planet. It was not a meteor. It was nothing. It was definitely, by definition, an unidentified flying object.